Hey, good morning, guys. How you all doing? I think I got my timing wrong, actually. Give me a second, guys. I think I got my live stream timing wrong. It should be 28. Let me sort that out. A second. Oh yeah. But yeah, welcome, guys. Welcome to the show. Got a packed lineup for you guys. Let me share my screen. So, who do we have with us today? Don't be shy. Say hello in the chat. Happy to have a chat with you guys. In the meantime, I'm just gonna quickly go on live on Twitter as well. So give me a second while I go live there. And in the meantime, guys, don't forget to say hello and stuff. Don't be shy. Okay, so just setting up my Twitter. Okay, we're live on Twitter as well. So welcome, guys. Welcome. Excuse me. Hey, Hang Chua, how you doing, bro? Nice to see you. Nice to see you. Good day. Good day. Okay, so should we get started then? Better late than never, right? So let's get started. So let's start with Twitter first of all. Hey, look, guys. I've got my Twitter's been increasing. I've got 951 followers. I think it was around 500 a few weeks ago, so I've almost doubled. So which is good. Yeah, which is good. It's not as good as Jackson Hinkle. I think he's got like 1.2 million or something, or probably more. Crazy, crazy. Okay, so let's go through the latest news in Twitter. You can see this guy, this old Biden lookalike. Look at his face; he looks so miserable. So he basically came on a conference and he said, "All people who support Hamas should all die." Excuse me, got a really bad cough. So here's everyone that supports Hamas should die. So let me tell you something. Even though most Muslims are not going to admit it, most Muslims actually support Hamas, and there's a lot of people around the world who support Hamas as well. A lot of people who are not going to admit it, like a lot of people in Africa. Anyone that's against the West, anyone that's against the genocide, is going to be on the side of the freedom fighters, Hamas. Because at the end of the day, I want to kind of tell you something, guys. I mean, these Hamas guys have been branded like terrorists and stuff like that by Israel and by the West. And they use that narrative and they use that excuse to basically genocide Palestine and rid the land of all the Palestinian people. And so they're using that excuse. End of the day, everybody knows international law, right? Not well, not everybody. Anybody that's clever will know international law, and the international law states that if you're an occupier and you occupy another country, that country has got the right to do whatever it wants, to fight back against oppressors, whether it's freedom fighting or whatever means possible. They are free to do whatever they want to fight the oppressors. So it's legal. So all this talk about Israel's got the right to defend itself, that's all BS, guys, because that's just something they're just trying to like put some sweetener on the journalists' mouths to kind of make it sweet. But the story is what they're doing is illegal, and what Hamas are doing is actually legal. So let me tell you something about Hamas. All these lies that they've said about Hamas have all become untrue over the past few weeks. First of all, they came up with the lie about Hamas beheaded 40 babies. And that story, then you had Biden coming out and saying in a press conference, yeah, I have seen the pictures of 40 beheaded babies. That's what Biden said. So they use that narrative to basically go into Gaza and blow people up and kill people. Then a week later, that story became false. They realized that that story was pure BS. So they had to come up with another story, and they started talking about mass RAPE. And again, that story has been debunked. Nobody has been RAPED. I can't say the full word because it's going to get demonetized. And the proof is last few days when Hamas has released a lot of women prisoners. And all of these women prisoners have all come out to say that they've all been treated nicely, they've all been fed. Nobody actually RAPD, you know what I mean? RAPED them. And if they were RAP'd, if they were RAPists, then they would have like wrapped. It's really hard to say with it. It's really hard to say that word. They will have wrapped those hostages as well, right? Because these Hamas are obviously supposed to be savages. They kill babies. They wrap women. So obviously that story has become false. Then they started making a false statement about there's a Hamas headquarters underneath one of the hospitals. So they broke into the hospital, killed loads of babies who were in incubators. There was no power going into the incubators. All these babies and patients died. Killed a lot of doctors and nurses, and they were looking for some tunnels underneath this hospital. They couldn't find any, by the way, and they saw a calendar on the wall, and they said, "Oh, this calendar has basically got all the terrorist names and things like that." And they had MRI scanning machine, and they found some machine guns on the MRI scanning machine, and they said, "Oh, this machine gun, you can see they're using this as a terrorist training base." And oh, hang on a second, guys. Sorry, guys, my screen froze for a bit. Let me just re-add the Twitter. So yeah, so they basically said that the MRI scanning machine room was used as a terrorist training base. They found one gun, then later they found two guns. Then when the BBC turned up, they found four guns. And even the BBC was started to ask questions about their stories. And even the BBC said, These are all lies. They promised Hamas headquarters, and we couldn't see any, we couldn't find any." And also, if you switch on the MRI machine, um, these big magnets. So if you have a gun in that room and you switch on the MRI machine, that gun would go straight into the MRI machine as a magnet. So all of these stories they were just making up. They made so many other stories, guys. All of these apparently they found some recordings of Hamas people talking on the phone, and they released them. And again, like experts have said that these are fake. Um, so these propagandas basically have been learning a lot of lessons from Ukraine, and they are doing it in a much worse way, almost cringe-worthy way. Everything's just lies and propaganda, and they're using these lies and propaganda to kill the civilians, basically. And you can see the way this guy's talking. It's all people who support Hamas should all die. I mean, they're still going along with this narrative. I think what they're trying to do is they want Gaza for themselves. They want the oil. They want the gas because the Europeans need the gas, and that's the only way Israel will be able to make money out of this situation. So if they can take all of Gaza, take and start, basically drilling some gas fields next to Gaza and oil fields next to Gaza, um, this whole adventure would have been worthwhile for them. And they can sell it to the Europeans, and Europeans will gladly buy gas from the Israelis, and that's the whole purpose. They're moving everybody from the north to the south of Gaza. And now they're saying that they might bomb people on the south of Gaza because they think that Hamas members are in the south. Eventually, they want to drive all the people out. And that is genocide, basically. You don't have to kill everyone for it to be called genocide. You can just drive everyone from their land. And that is genocide, basically. It's the same thing happened in North America, where the white colonists basically drove out all the red Indians, and they are nowhere to be seen anymore. You hardly see them, you hardly see their culture. They've all been driven out of their land, and that is basically genocide. And the other time there was a genocide was in the Second World War, and obviously it happened to the Jews, but now the Jews are doing it to the Palestinians. So you can see this picture, there are similarities between Jew and symbols in Ukraine. You can see the similarities are very, very similar with the kind of symbolism. And this is why this is all related. So bad news for the dollar today. The dollar has been falling pretty badly. Um, before I go, before I talk about the dollar, I just want to make sure you guys can hear me. Make sure everyone's okay. Um, let's see who else is on available. I'm just gonna say a quick hello to you guys. Hey Camila, hi Big Basil, hey Dory, hey Anthony Willis, BIMM Jim, Bim Jim, David Moss, and I've said hello to Hung Tua, and uh, hi Mehdi, and hi Anas. Welcome guys, welcome. So I just want to kind of quickly say hello to you guys before I move on. So the dollar has actually been falling over the past couple of weeks and used to be 106, over 106. And today it's fallen below 103. It's gone to like 102.5. I'm talking about the dollar index here. And one of the reasons it's fallen is because countries around the world are still de-dollarizing. A couple of days ago, you might have heard of the news that China and Saudi Arabia are going to have a currency exchange mechanism worth about 7 billion, and that's going to obviously increase over time. And now UAE has also kind of officially have stopped using dollar for oil trade, so they're going to be trading in their local currencies with China, with India, with Russia. So these are big blows happening to the US dollar. and more countries are going to be de-dollarizing, unless you're Argentina, by the way. If you're Argentina, you will be dollarizing, but every other country around the world are de-dollarizing. Countries around the world are also dumping bonds as well. China's been dumping bonds, but a lot of Western countries are actually buying bonds, especially UK and a few other countries as well. I think it's a really, really bad idea because eventually these bonds are going to be absolutely worthless. The dollar's going down really badly, and this basically reflects on the gold prices going up as well. So the gold has been going steadily up as well, and yeah, I just think that y- un, I just think that they might not even increase the interest rates anymore because I think they're very close to having a pivot. And those of you who don't know finance, I just want to quickly explain. They have been increasing the interest rates to combat the inflation, and obviously inflation's been very high. The inflation has gone down a little bit, but it's still not enough. I think it's around 3% or something, and they want to bring it down to around 2%. And 3% is the official numbers. The unofficially is much higher than that. Um, and obviously, you guys go out shop, you guys know how expensive things are. So the inflation is still going up. And as the dollar price goes down, oil prices going up, and you know, kind of gas prices are going up and stuff, and that will also obviously make inflation go up as well. There's more and more. Um, so one of the ways that the US has been combating inflation is what they have been basically tightening the screw, and they have been increasing the interest rates. And by increasing the interest rates, that strengthens the dollar. It makes the dollar extremely strong, and that means that other currencies they become very weak compared to the dollar. So right now they're in a position now where the dollar is extremely strong, and when you have a very strong dollar, your exports become more expensive, and you because your dollar is so strong. um, Basically, like if you're a oh, how would I explain? So if you're like third world country, if you're a country like Sri Lanka or Pakistan, for example, and you need energy, right? So you need to buy energy with US dollars because US dollar is kind of the petrodollar. So if the dollar's more stronger than your own currency, so it's going to cost you more to buy oil and gas because you have to buy it in petrodollars and stuff. So these poor third world countries are going to really struggle when the dollar's very strong. And if you want to also buy US products, US goods, because the dollar is so strong, you won't be able to afford that many US products and goods. That means US exports are going to be going down. So all of these countries are going to be looking elsewhere to buy goods, namely China or other places like India, maybe Southeast Asia. So this is why US exports has been really suffering. Um, they need a weak dollar for their exports to be very competitive. So right now the dollar is starting to go down, and they are very close to pivoting, which means they might start reducing interest rates. Um, and once you start reducing interest rates, you can start printing money again. Because right now they are tightening. They don't want to print more money because of inflation. So once they start pivoting, once they realize that they've taken the interest rates as high as possible without destroying the economy, and oh, hang on a second, guys, my screen's frozen again. Sorry, my screen frozen again. So just when they think that they have taken the economy as far as they can without destroying the economy, they are going to start printing the money, and they need to print the money because as you know, interest rates are very, very high at the moment, which means their debt level is going really, really high. The debt level is, almost like 33, 34 trillion, and it's going becoming super, super high. And with the high interest rates, you mean you basically will have to pay more for your debt, more for your interest, and that means if you have a loan or a mortgage, you have higher interest payments, and a lot of people will struggle. Average people, could lose their house if they can't keep up with their payments. Because right now you have high electricity bills, high mortgage, high cost of living. So something's got to give. The middle class are just getting poorer and poorer, and a lot of them are going into poverty. So eventually they're going to have to pivot. Eventually they're going to have to start printing money again. And when they start printing money, the value of the dollar is going to go down because you have more in circulation. That means the value is going to be going down. And plus, if you start printing again, the inflation is going to start going up as well because you'll have more money in circulation, and that causes inflation to rise. So it's a lose-lose situation. They don't know what to do at the moment. They don't know whether to carry on increasing the interest rates, and if they do that, the whole economy is going to crash, and people are just going to get very extremely poor, and that might cause riots. But if they carry on printing money, if they reduce interest rates, then that will cause high inflation, and again, that could cause riots and stuff because eventually the cost of goods are going to be so high that people are not going to be able to afford basic necessities like food and milk and sugar and egg and stuff. So we are in an extremely bad position, and the dollar is in a very risky position at the moment. And so we are in. So they don't know whether to increase interest rates or whether to start reducing them, which is the pivot. But I think the next Fed meeting, we will probably know what they're going to decide. There was a Fed meeting today, and the person who was speaking was kind of dovish. He was reluctant to increase any more interest rates, he said. So we'll see. I think the next official Fed meeting, we will know where the government is gonna be going. But the reality on the ground is the dollar is still losing value despite the high interest rates, and the whole world is starting to de-dollarize because they know they cannot rely on the dollar. The dollar is a dead paper, basically. It's not worth the paper it's written on. The huge amount of debt that the US has got, and all of these countries, they just want to diversify, start using their local currencies or start using other currencies. So yeah, the dollar's going to be gone. Euro's going to be gone as well. The euro's going to be. I don't know if you saw the news where China has become the second highest currency used around the world. Used to be the euro, but not anymore. Now it's the Chinese yuan. So China has kind of taken over that side of things as well. So let's go down, see what other news articles there are. So this is somebody said that Israel's military estimates that during the assault on Gaza, it's killed between 1,000 and 2,000 Hamas fighters out of a military force of around 30,000 strong. Benjamin Netanyahu has pledged to eliminate the group, but Hamas remains a coherent fighting and political operation able to negotiate over hostages. And he also said that if Israel kills 1,500 militants and 15,000 civilians have died, that's about 10 civilians per militant. So they would need to kill 20x more to achieve their goal. So what this guy is trying to say is So far, they've killed 1,000 to 2,000 Hamas members. This is an estimate, by the way. There's no like official figures, and they've killed about 15,000 people, most of it women and children. So if there are 30,000 Hamas members, we're talking about civilians being killed. It could be up to 200 or 300,000 civilians, mostly women and children, could die. But I don't think it's as simple as that, because if you think about it, for every family that gets killed, every surviving member will want to join Hamas. So, for example, if a father loses his daughter or his son, first thing he's going to do is join Hamas, right? Well, what about a son who's lost his dad or lost his mum? He's going to want to join Hamas to take revenge. So all of these civilians that they're killing, you know, it's just becoming a breeding ground for more people to take revenge. And also, the whole Muslim world is being enraged as well, and there's a lot of volunteer fighters going into Gaza as well. There's I saw some images today of Yemen Houthis going into, making their way towards Gaza. They're basically smuggling their way through Saudi Arabian deserts and stuff, and they're gonna be heading towards Gaza. Obviously, you have Lebanon, you have Syrians, and and you will see a lot of people going via Lebanon to the north of Israel to fight Israelis there. The people from all over the Muslim world will probably want to join in the longer this fight take, this longer this fight goes on. So I don't think this is an easy fight for Israel. I think it's going to take a long time, and whether they win this fight or not, I'm not sure. Um, Personally, I think that Israel. Personally, I don't think Israel has got the money to go long distance for this, because they are same as Ukraine. They are surviving on U.S. money. The U.S. has given them 14 billion, but I don't think the US will be able to give much more to Ukraine. I mean, not to Ukraine, to Israel. They might give some more weapons and stuff and more money, but I don't think the US will be able to give 14 billion every month just to keep this Israeli fight going. And don't forget, the US has got 3 aircraft carrier groups in the Mediterranean as well, and that costs money as well. So they're spending a lot of money here as well. Plus, they're trying to support Ukraine as well. I think that Israel is probably losing a lot of money every single day. There's no tourism in Israel at the moment. A lot of the businesses are closed. Everyone's being drafted to the military. So the whole economy has basically stopped in Israel fighting this war, and I think that eventually they are going to have some sort of money issue, and they're going to have to pull back. And you just have to look at Hamas members, that what they're doing. Like one guy who makes homemade rockets costing $100 is taking out tanks which are worth 3 million each. And in terms of war economy, Hamas is winning. If $100 rocket takes out a $3 million tank, you just cannot compare the economic win that is for Hamas. And they have taken out a lot of tanks. There's a lot of kind of footage all over the internet of these Hamas members taking out tanks, and there's animes as well. I've seen some animes. They're basically all these Hamas members come running into tanks and putting these mines onto tanks and running away. Yeah, it's just yeah, fearless guys these are, but obviously they will be fearless, because end of the day, these guys, you know, they've got nothing to lose. They probably lost their family members to Israel at some point. They've got no life. They've got nothing to look forward to. So this is all they know. Like this is all they. This is what they live for, basically. They've got nothing to lose, and Yeah, but the Israelis are different. The Israeli army is a different bunch. These guys, they're all on TikTok. They're all making TikTok videos. They're all partying. They have a good life in Israel. They got a life of luxury. They eat well. They party. They travel. They do all the stuff that Western countries do. So these guys, the guys in Israel, they don't want to fight. They don't, these guys are not battle hardened like the Hamas members are. These Hamas members they train to fight. They don't have the luxuries that Israel has got. So all they do is fight and train, and that's the big difference, really. So these Israeli soldiers, they don't want to, go and fight and die, because they've got a good life back home. They've got money. They've got a lot going on, parties and friends and stuff, living a nice Western life. But yeah, it's a completely different. And while these Hamas members are just growing up in a concentration camp, basically, because Gaza is a concentration camp, and that's the difference. So I just think long term, um, there is no way Israel can win. That's my prediction anyway. Um, what other stories are there? So this is a quite a funny story. The US is basically asking for its Abram tanks back because they want to save the reputation of these tanks. So there's a story I saw on the Guardian or a long time ago. This was Alanina Baerbock was basically talking about how great German tanks were, the Leopard tanks were in Ukraine, and they're going to make a big difference, and they're going to win the war. And then a week later, all of these Leopard tanks that they've given to Ukraine, they all started getting blown up one by one. And these Leopard tanks have been shown to be absolutely useless. And then a couple of weeks later, every single Leopard tank in the front line got destroyed because these Leopard tanks were targeted by Russia, especially, and the soldiers taking out these Leopard tanks got extra bonuses and stuff. So anyone that drove a Leopard tank got taken out very, very quickly. So Elenina Elenina Baerbock basically came out on a press conference and said, "Oh, she started comparing these tanks to iPhones." And she says that basically these German tanks, don't think of them as German tanks, think of them as Ukrainian tanks, because it's like selling an iPhone. If a Ukrainian person buys an iPhone from Apple, this is not an Apple product. This is a Ukrainian product, basically. So the reason she said that is because people stopped buying Leopard tanks because they've seen how useless they are in battle. So the Germans basically had a massive order of Leopard tanks all over Europe, and people just stopped buying it all just overnight because they've seen how easily they are. They can be destroyed by Russia, and the Germans basically had zero orders for Leopard tanks. So she had to come in and said, "Oh, don't think of these as German Leopard tanks. Just think of these as like Ukrainian Leopard tanks." But our German Leopard tanks are obviously different from Ukrainian ones, and so she started like backtracking and stuff. So the same thing the United States is very, very scared of. They don't want to put these you know, Abram tanks in the front line, because if they are destroyed the same way as the Leopard tanks are destroyed, the people from around the world are going to stop buying these M1 Abram tanks as well, because people are going to think, oh, these M1 Abram tanks are just as bad as the Leopard tanks. What's the point of buying them? They're absolutely useless. We might as well just save our money and buy a tank from Turkey or something, and save millions. What's the point of buying an Abram when they're so easily destroyed? So the United States is basically asking for the tanks back. And my reply to this is basically, I'm just giving Zelensky some advice. I said to Zelensky, might as well send them to the front line ASAP because once they're in the front line ASAP, then United States can take them back. But obviously, once they're destroyed, they can take them back. Because at the end of the day, Zelensky doesn't owe anything to United States anymore because the United States is not even going to support him anymore. They're not going to give him any more money, hardly giving him any weapons now. And obviously, it's election year as well, 2024. And most likely, Trump will come into power. And as soon as Trump comes into power, he's just going to stop complete funding of Ukraine. And this is what the EU are absolutely scared of. The EU is actually panicking because they remember the time when Trump was around before Biden, and Trump did not like the EU, and the EU guys did not like Trump at all. They were always clashing, and so yeah, the EU is absolutely panicking. Trump might come back into power, and he's going to completely pull the plug on Ukraine, and the EU will be left with the Ukrainian problem. So the EU will basically have to pay Ukraine to carry on fighting Russia, and I think the EU is going to completely collapse. By It's like putting bad money into bad money. It's like gambling, basically, doubling down on a losing bet, and that's what they're doing. But the EU has never been, they've never been clever or shrewd. The EU have been kind of led by a bunch of idiots, to be honest. You got Ursula, you got Borrell, you got all these stupid EU leaders from all these Western countries. You got Boris. Obviously, Boris is not part of the EU, but he's all part of the same group. Um, you have that Sanna Marin from Finland, who basically decided to have a great idea by getting Finland to join NATO. What an absolute amazing idea that was. And then you have all these European countries cutting links with Russia, adding all these sanctions, which have completely boomeranged against them. Germany is deindustrializing because of it. They've lost their access to cheap energy. Europe is losing as a result. The cost of living for everyone in Europe is going up, and Europe is really, really struggling at the moment, all because of these ridiculous leaders who are absolute clowns in the world stage, absolute clowns. And you have Ursula coming onto the world stage talking about how Russia takes chips from fridges and uses them in bombs and rockets. I mean, how ridiculously, we're an airhead, right? I mean, how ridiculously, um, I don't want to use stupid because that's kind of you know, I think people who are stupid is a kind of a compliment if you kind of compare that to Ursula, because imagine coming out and saying to the EU public how Russia's taken mini chips from fridges and putting it in rockets. I mean, how idiotic do you have to be to believe that crap? I mean, Russia has access to Chinese chips, right? China can make chips 7 nanometers, and the chips in fridges are like 128 nanometers or 200 nanometers because you don't really need powerful chips. You don't need powerful chips for fridges. I mean, these fridges can have probably got first generation or second generation chips, which are like 200, 300 nanometers or something. And but China can produce 7 nanometers chips. I mean, do they forgotten about the Chinese market? The China will happily sell Russia these advanced chips that they have. China has already built one of the most powerful computers a few years ago, and that has 7 nanometers chips as well. Um, so yeah, it's just these EU leaders, they're all just ridiculous. It's just a bunch of clowns. Watching a bunch of clowns at work. Seriously, all full of double standards, all full of hypocrisy. The way they are absolute hypocrisy towards Ukraine and Israel and everything that's going on in the world. Well, one minute they're preaching human rights in Ukraine, and then when Israel does it, they're all quiet. They don't say anything. So imagine the human rights and imagine all these EU like delegates who travel around the world talking about human rights and stuff, because EU is one of the EU's main founding principles is human rights. Every country they do trade with, the number one thing you know they look at is human rights before they trade with that country. That's the number one principle that EU has. So every country they go to in Africa, whether they work with China, whether they work with India, you know, they like to go to China, they like to go to all of these countries and start talking about human rights. Like when they go to China, they start talking about human rights and this and that. Most of it is obviously BS. And then when it comes to Israel and all of the human rights abuses Israel is doing, they just ignore it. They Ursula went to Israel a few times. Did she talk about human rights? No, she's talking about how Israel has made the desert bloom and everything. Oh my God. Seriously, this woman is just full of double standards and hypocrisy. And this is why the world just doesn't like the Europeans. And you got Joseph Borrell saying how much of a garden Europe is and the rest of the world is like a jungle. Um, these are all colonial mindsets, guys. They all think they're better than everyone else, and that's the problem. When you have that kind of mentality, you're not going to be liked too much around the world, and you're just full of double standards and hypocrisy, and people can see through it. People are not stupid. They can see the hypocrisy. They can see the double standards. I love to see the Europeans go to a country to trade now and to start talking about human rights. I mean, imagine if a European delegation goes to Congo or maybe another African country and they bring up human rights. Imagine these Congolese or maybe Sudanese or another African country start laughing at these Europeans in front of their faces, thinking, "You talk to us about human rights when you completely ignore what Israel is doing." So they're going to be laughed at in their faces next time they bring up human rights around the world. Okay, guys. So let's see how you guys are doing. You got any questions for me? Let me know if you have any questions. Just put Q in front of the questions and we can answer a few. And how you guys doing anyway? Let me see if I can pick up some nice questions. So Mehdi says snow is Russia's friend right now. In mass movements, deadens sound travel at night. Mostly drones cannot operate. Yes, very very true. Very true, Mehdi. I think it's snowing in Moscow at the moment, and it's snowing in most of Ukraine as well. And yeah, I mean, I'll tell you one thing: Ukraine can't do any more of their offensive in this kind of weather, so they're kind of stuck at the moment. So, any other questions? Hey, Quantum, how you doing, bro? Long time no see. Actual military grade chip that is suitable for tank costs at least $100,000. These are not normal chips for sure. Yes, definitely, definitely. Can't see any other questions, so let me move on. I'll carry on with the show then. Oh yeah, I've got a question from Rolf. The only way to defeat the US empire is really to create trade relationships away from the USA so that it destroys itself with massive inflation. Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, this is why the US is really scared of the Belt and Road Initiative, because the Belt and Road Initiative is basically a link that not only links China to the rest of the continents, but also links the rest of the world to China. So you have obviously the Asian continent linking to the Eurasian continent, to the European continent, to the African continent, uh, and and all of these countries will basically able to link with each other with trains, and trains are faster than ships. Much faster. They're much easier, um, and you can transport more as well, and they're much cheaper as well. You don't have to pay all of these insurance costs and shipping costs as well. Plus, there's a lot of choke points when you're shipping, like the Malacca Strait, the Suez Canal, the Panama Canal. There's so many choke points around the world. Um, so once this Belt and Road is completely finished, you will see the whole world connecting with each other and trading with each other using trains and other services, land-based services. The Americans are going to be completely isolated from the rest of the world because obviously the only countries kind of linked to the Americans are Canada and obviously South America. And Canada really doesn't really have much of an economy, and South America obviously is a growing economy, but it's not really. You can't really compare South America to the rest of the world. Like rest of the world, you have Russia, you have China, you have India. I mean, look at the population for just these three countries. You have Indonesia, you have Southeast Asia, you have Central Asia, you have Europe, you have Africa, you have Middle East. So you have all of these, 80 to 90% of the population, 80 to 90% of the world's GDP is basically along the Belt and Road scheme. So definitely, America or North America is going to be, really, really kind of catching up, and this is why they are trying to kind of destroy the Belt and Road, and so far it's been failing. They have been trying to destroy it using color revolutions. They've been trying to destroy it using. They've been kind of using terrorism in Balochistan. They've been trying to do regime change in Pakistan, in other friendly countries like Philippines, like South Korea, and many other countries. So they're trying their best, obviously, to try and kind of disrupt this Belt and Road stuff, but it's not working, unfortunately. The problem with America is they got they got too many plates they are juggling at the moment around the world, and they can't focus on one country. They love to focus on China because at the end of the day, China is still their biggest threat. They love to focus on China, but they can't. They keep getting dragged into the Middle East because of Israel. They keep getting dragged into Europe because of Ukraine and Russia. So So obviously, they would have loved to kind of stayed in Afghanistan because Afghanistan used to share a border with China, and also Afghanistan was the Central Asian hub for United States. They would have loved to have kept that, but they've lost Afghanistan. They're going to probably lose Middle East as well because all of these military bases they have in the Middle East, they're all being attacked, and the Middle Eastern countries absolutely hate the Americans now because of the way they have been completely they have completely isolated themselves by rubbing shoulders with Israel. They have given Israel the green light to attack Palestinians. This has enraged the Middle East. It's enraged the global south as well, and this is why countries are de-dollarizing now. And what once you start de-dollarizing, all of these dollars are going to start ending up in America again. And once you have all of these dollars ending up in America, you're going to have hyperinflation. And once you get hyperinflation, it's game over, guys. Sorry about that. Lost you guys for a second again. Let me just go back to my screen. So I want to talk about another story here. So I want to talk about Volkswagen. Um, so Volkswagen looks to be in serious trouble in China. So Volkswagen has been very, very good in China over the years, and China has been their biggest buyers. And anybody who doesn't know Volkswagen, Volkswagen Group is basically is a conglomerate, and they own other cars like I think yeah. So you have Volkswagen like Golf, and I think I'm not sure if BMW is part. No, BMW is not part of Volkswagen. Is it? I think it's I'll have to check, guys. But Volkswagen is one German's biggest car company, and they have sales of like 60% in China, and they and you know and this is how they've been making money, mainly because of the Chinese market. And as you know, Germany's biggest market is China. So Volkswagen has been making money in China for years. Same with BMW, same with Mercedes, Audi, many other German car companies. Japanese car companies have been making a lot of money in China. Korean car companies have been making a lot of money in China. But recently, obviously, the rise of electric cars in China, the NEVs, more and more people are starting to buy electric cars in China, which means people are buying less and less ICE cars. ICE, I mean, internal combustion engine. And China has recently started a rule which is going to be kicking off end of this year. I mean, they're going to place s- a major rule, which means that they're going to ban the selling of ICE cars in China, brand new cars. And this is because of all the pollution and stuff like that. And this rule was supposed to kick off in May, June, July. But because there were so many car showrooms with ICE cars, and they would have like lost a lot of money, so they kind of extended that to December. So in 1 month, this rule will take place where all of the ICE cars will be banned in China, and this is going to be a huge, huge hit to Volkswagen, because Volkswagen has been very, very slow to go to go into the electric route, and they're very, very slow compared to the Chinese cars and other cars as well. So they are kind of falling behind in the race, and they are seriously losing money. Volkswagen has also got debts of 2 billion um, that they need to pay back. And with all this money they're going to be losing from China, they will probably be one of the leading candidates of becoming bankrupt. And if Volkswagen becomes bankrupt, you can see Germany in terms of its manufacturing is just going to go down, because Volkswagen is probably 25% of German manufacturing. If that car company goes down, whole of Germany would actually go down as well with it. And it's the same in Japan as well. Japan, obviously, you have Toyota, Mitsubishi, Nissan, and all these other car companies, and they've been very, very slow to go to the to go to the electric route as well. The Japanese cars have been focusing on hydrogen. Um, they've been very slow to implement the electric cars. So Japan is going to be falling. Germany is going to be falling very, very hard once these rules get implemented in December. Already, people have stopped buying Korean cars. Korean cars are nobody buys Korean cars anymore. Korean cars are pretty much useless. It's all Chinese cars for now. Um, there's a big, massive influx of Chinese cars in Russia, because obviously all of these car companies do not sell in Russia anymore because of all the sanctions. So China has been moving a lot of electric cars in Russia. And a lot of these electric cars are also being sold all over Asia. Like Thailand's got massive Chinese car influx as well. Same with Indonesia, same with Vietnam as well, and Central Asia as well. And also Europeans are also taking in Chinese cars, but there might be an issue because I think Europeans might be putting some trade tariffs in place, and they might be starting a trade war with China, which is going to be a very, very bad idea if they do that. Because end of the day, if they start a trade war with China, the only companies that's going to hurt is Volkswagen and other European companies. So that is something that they do not want to do. Um, the Americans don't buy Chinese electric cars, and the same way, not many American cars come to China anyway. I mean, I think people in people in China do not buy American cars. American cars are also very, very slow compared to the electric cars in China. So the only successful American electric car company is Tesla, obviously, but Tesla is not, is a different kettle of fish compared to other car companies like Ford, for example. Ford is still ICE, internal combustion engine. So they are still very slow in terms of moving with the technology. But obviously, Tesla is successful. It's still an American company, but um, it's not a real American car company like Ford or Rivian or other companies like that. And Tesla's obviously by themselves as well. So I think from December onwards, there's going to be a massive change in the car industry, and 2024 is going to be a massive change. And I think you're going to see Volkswagen really struggling to keep afloat because they are still 2 billion in debt. They are losing so much money, and once they lose the Chinese market, because once this rule takes place in December, they are going to be losing so much money. And if Volkswagen collapses, you can see Germany collapse, and Japan will also collapse as well. Japan's car manufacturing is going to be absolutely collapsing next year because Japan's been making a lot of money from China as well, and Japan has been the number one country to export cars around the world. And again, 60% of Japanese cars were sold in China, so they will lose that market basically. Um, they're not going to find that market anywhere else in the world. So Japan and Germany are going to be major countries 2024 that could bring down the economy, the world economy, because I think if those companies go down, um, then it could bring down the world. It could bring down Europe. It could bring down the whole of Germany. It could bring down Japan. I don't think Germany will probably allow Volkswagen to collapse. I think they will probably try and bail Volkswagen out somehow. But again, have Germany doesn't have the money to bail out companies. They've already bailed out a lot of energy companies this year, gas companies, electricity companies. They are deindustrializing. They don't have the money, and 2 billion is a lot of money in debt that Volkswagen has. And even if Germany bails them out, they're still going to be, you know, losing money, right? So Germany cannot keep bailing them out year after year after year. Eventually, they will have to collapse. So 2024 is going to be a big year for the world economy, especially in Germany, especially in Japan. So keep a lookout. Even Korea is in big danger as well. Korean manufacturing has been going down. Korea has been having a trade surplus with China for over 20 years. They've been having a trade surplus, but this is the first year Korea has got a trade deficit with China, which means Korea is buying more goods from China rather than selling more goods to China. So this is the first year they have a huge trade deficit. Korea is also losing market share in shipbuilding to China as well. And and Korea is going to have a big problem next year. If China managed to find a way to make chips which are 5 nanometers, and they started building more factories to make 7 nanometers chips, then Korea's economy is still going to be going down because you know the three economies in Korea which have been making a lot of money for Korea over the years. Number one has been shipbuilding, number two has been cars, and number three has been chips. And they are losing market share to all of them to China. And I think in 2024, if this continues, Korea is going to be in serious trouble. I'm talking about South Korea here. Japan's going to be in serious trouble because they're already having economic issues in Japan right now. Banks are collapsing. Banks are, being bailed out by the government. Their bonds are pretty much useless. And yeah, Japan's having some serious issues. They're having to sell US government bonds as well. So Japan's having to sell a lot of US government bonds, and also US also owes Japan a lot of bonds which have been matured, but US doesn't have the money to pay Japan as well. So Japan is in some serious issues. Germany is in some serious issues. Korea is in some serious issues. So I think 2024 is going to be a really, really massive year for the economy, and I think keep a lookout for Germany, for Japan, and Korea. But I think Volkswagen is going to be a trigger. If Volkswagen suddenly goes down because its sales goes all the way to zero because they've been too slow to implement their electric cars. If Volkswagen goes down or they need a bailout, then I can see Germany going down first, then Japan, followed by Korea, then the rest of Europe and Britain. And yeah, and as the dollar keeps falling down, it will eventually reach USA after that as well. So I think next year is going to be a massive, massive year for the economy. A lot of countries will go into recession next year as well. Britain will go into recession. So yeah, keep a lookout, guys. A lot of things will happen next year. Next year is going to be an interesting year. You have the Taiwanese elections next year. You have the American elections next year. Next year might be a year for Chinese chips. I believe they might have some breakthroughs with some Chinese chips, which could really severely impact big companies like Intel, TSMC. But yeah, it could be a massive year for recession and the economy next year. So keep a lookout. So what other stories do I have? Let's see now. So I wanted to kind of talk about this as well. You can see the yuan is starting to go up. As the dollar goes down in value, the Chinese yuan is starting to go up because the Chinese yuan is becoming more and more like required around the world. More countries are buying the Chinese yuan. More and more countries are trading with China in yuan as well. Even India is trading in China with yuan. Russia's doing it as well. They see the yuan as a rising currency and a stable currency as well. And obviously, you look around the world, you look at the Europeans who are having a war with Russia, you look at the Americans who are having a war with obviously Russia, and they're getting involved in the Middle East. You have American dollars, which is obviously 33, 34 trillion in debt. And so the only alternative in the global currency, which is quite stable at the moment, is the Chinese yuan. And this is why a lot of countries are starting to use the Chinese yuan and using that for trade. And as you know, China is the biggest trading partner for a lot of the countries around the world. I believe around 160, 170 countries around the world have China as their largest trading partner. So obviously they will use yuan with China as well, and that means the yuan will get stronger, the dollar will get weaker, and all the other currencies that the yuan is linked with will also get weaker as well. So this is it's good news, but it's also bad news as well for China, because I think what China has been trying to do is also trying to keep the yuan weak, because if you keep your currency weak, your exports become cheaper, because China is still an export country, exports more than it imports. So China needs the yuan to be weak. So a strong yuan doesn't really do any good for China. So there's advantages and disadvantages. But end of the day, sometimes if your currency is in demand around the world, there's nothing you can do, but your currency will get stronger. There's nothing really you can do. If the dollar gets weaker, your currency gets stronger. There's steps that you can take. Obviously, there's a lot of steps you can do in an economic level to weaken your currency, but there's only so much you can do. Eventually, um, your currency will start getting stronger and stronger. And this is what's happened to the dollar. As you know, with the as soon as they implemented the petrodollar, the more and more countries starting using the petrodollar, the dollar got stronger and stronger, and the dollar became the number one um, reserve currency around the world because of it. And they've been enjoying their reserve currency status for a good number of years now, 50, 60 years, maybe more. And what they are able to do is they can print the money in America, and any inflation, they used to just, you know, basically the world used to suffer the inflation while the Americans used to kind of enjoy it. They used to just print the money without any consequences. And that's what's happened really. They've kind of weaponized the dollar over the years. They've managed to print ridiculous amounts. They have exported the inflation to the rest of the world, because the world is basically forced to use dollar to buy important commodities like oil, like gas, agriculture, other chips, even, and many other things that you are forced to use the dollar for. So a lot of the countries are basically exported the US inflation to their countries, while the US basically enjoyed all the benefits that the reserve currency brings. But all of that is going to come to an end eventually. You know, you can't have the good thing going on forever. Nothing lasts forever. So I think now they're going to have all the kind of inflation and hyperinflation moving back to the United States, because all of these dollars that have been circulated around the world, the less and less these dollars are being used, the more countries are de-dollarizing, more of these dollars will end up back in the US, and this will cause hyperinflation. So eventually everything comes to an end, and that's what's happening. Okay, guys, let's go around and ask for any questions. Um, excuse me. Hello, Zoo. And I'm not going to ask that because it's got a word that might get demonetized with. So David said, I agree that a real sense that Germany and Japan have been still occupied by the US and not fully sovereign. 100%, 100%. Yeah. So you got about 40,000 American troops in Japan, 30,000 in Germany, and yeah, they don't really have their own sovereignty. Um, the United States would rather them destroy their own economies, and save the American economy. And Japan has done that in the past, and you've all heard about them. And oh, what was that? There's something called Plaza Accord. How Japan has basically signed the Plaza Accord, and they just signed their own death warrant, and their economy has greatly suffered since the Plaza Accord. And Germany is doing the same thing. Germany is basically deindustrializing because of the United States. They're placing all of these sanctions on Russia. They've cut their access to cheap energy. They've destroyed their own. Well, America did it for them, and their own Nord Stream pipeline. They're also destroying their relationship with China because of the US as well. So these leaders in Germany, they just don't know what they're doing. They're just basically following US orders. People like Baerbock, Habeck, and Scholz, they're all just stooges of the American empire, and they're just destroying the whole economy. And it's just poor German people really, because in the end of the day, they're the ones that are going to be suffering. Japan has been being destroyed systematically for the past 20 years anyway. Japan's economy has not been going up for the past 20 years since the Plaza Accord, since the 1980s. The economy has been stagnant, and but now the economy is starting is looking in serious bad shape now in Japan. Um, so um, so yeah, things are not looking good. Let me know if you guys got any more questions. Happy to answer them. If not, I'll move on. I think I've got one or two. I've got one question here. Loan it out on BRI. That's correct. Yeah. So the way it works is a lot of these countries get loans from China to build the BRI, but these loans come in the way of American dollars because China has basically got a trade surplus with the United States, and they've got a trade surplus of over a trillion per year, and most of it is with dollars because they trade a lot with dollars. And what do they do with these dollars? Because at the end of the day, you know, there's a couple of things they can do. They can buy U.S. property, U.S. bonds, um, and basic like U.S. goods even. But most of these dollars, China used to basically give out loans around the world to build infrastructure. And the good thing is, once they give out these dollars in loans to build infrastructure, these countries pay back in Chinese yuan or pay back in local currencies. So this is a really good way of getting rid of dollars and also making your own currency stronger. So you're basically loaning out dollars, but you're getting back, in Chinese yuan or other currencies. Um, so, so this is a really, really good business sense because at the end of the day, it's a win-win. Number one, you get rid of dollars. You did de-dollarize. Number two, you're not forced to buy American bonds and properties and things like that and goods as well. So you're completely independent. Um, and number three is basically these countries you're building infrastructure with. The long term is these countries are going to become more and more richer, and then and you'll be able to kind of trade more with them as more richer they get. They'll be able to trade more with you. And Vietnam is a very good example. Vietnam after the Vietnam War was completely savaged. Nobody knew Vietnam would be so good economically, and now look at Vietnam. Vietnam's trade with China 20 years ago was very, very small. Then China started moving a lot of their manufacturing to Vietnam, and Vietnam started improving their economy. They become richer and richer and richer. And now Vietnam is one of the richest countries in Southeast Asia, and they're they've got really good trade relationships with China. They're trading both ways with China, vice versa. Vietnam is also building railway links, high-speed railway links to China as well. China provides Vietnam with a lot of energy as well. A lot of energy goes to Vietnam. So you can see how the neighboring countries are improving with infrastructure. Same thing's happening to Laos, Cambodia. Cambodia is building a lot of infrastructure from China. Laos is building a lot of infrastructure. Thailand is as well. Uh, Indonesia, you can see the high-speed rail link, how many benefits that's bringing to Indonesia. So the only country that's suffering right now is Philippines, because Philippines decided to become the chump of the United States. They like to become the pansy of the United States, follow their orders. Rather than building infrastructure, they decided to build US military bases instead and provoke China with it. And recently, China basically withheld giving loans to Philippines to kind of build infrastructure because they just feel that it's just not worth it, because Philippines is just all he's doing is just listening to the US and trying to cause trouble in the South China Sea. So there's no point for China to kind of give him loans for infrastructure and stuff like that. If you as a country is going to just listen to the United States and just cause trouble. So yeah, it's a shame really. It looks like Philippines, they want to stay poor because they're not going to get much money from all of these US bases. Because at the end of the day, what do these US bases really give you as a country? Do they really help you develop? You need infrastructure to develop. And the previous Philippines leader had the right idea. Duerte, he had the right idea. But yeah, this new guy is a complete puppet of the United States. It's a shame, really, because his father was a complete puppet as well of the United States, and now he's following their footsteps. So let's see what other stories there is. I'm just gonna quickly go down, see if there's anything interesting. So apparently all the British Jews are leaving UK. I'm not surprised because everybody's leaving UK. The Russians are leaving UK. The Arabs are leaving UK. The Jews are now leaving UK. Anybody rich is leaving the UK because UK is pretty much dead. It's a dead country. So there's a story about 10 Taiwanese soldiers charged for spying for China. So I read this report, and I think number one, China doesn't really need Taiwanese spies because at the end of the day, Taiwan is not really militarily strong enough to kind of fight China. I don't even think they would last a day or two. Um, because all the military equipment given to Taiwan from United States, these are old equipment that United States doesn't want, and they're selling it for a really expensive price. They got really old equipment, old planes, old ships and submarines and anti-aircraft guns. China will not really have much trouble taking out Taiwan if they wanted to. But I don't think it's something that they want. I think they're going to want to do it peacefully. And also, if you look at the article, these are Taiwanese soldiers charged. So charged means they accused of being spies for China. So I think it's also a lot to do with paranoia, because United States has been doing it to Chinese scientists. Every single Chinese scientist in China in United States is basically charged with espionage or spying, because they're basically too paranoid. And I think looks like Taiwan is doing the same thing as well. So yeah, it might be a non-story really. I like to see how this develops. So there's a story here how Chinese car sales are going up in Mexico. So you can see the white line, 200K cars sold in Mexico. These are Chinese cars. So you can see South American countries love Chinese cars, and there's a huge demand for Chinese cars in South America. Plus, South America is very close to China. It's just on the other side of the Pacific Sea. and China's got very, very good relationships with every single South American country, apart from a few which have still got links with Taiwan. I think there's like one or two which China doesn't have any relationship with because they've obviously got relationship with Taiwan instead. Excuse me. And there's a question mark over Argentina as well, especially with the new guy coming in. So we will see how this relationship develops. But the way it looks like, this new guy sounds absolutely crazy, and he's definitely an anti-Chinese or a Chinese hater. So I wouldn't be surprised if he cuts links with China, same way like Bolsonaro did. So let's go down, see if there's any more. Oh yeah, so some of these hostages got released, and you can see a lot of these hostages saying goodbye to Hamas. And these hostages, they weren't wrapped. When I say wrapped, you know what I mean. I can't say the actual word. These are females. They were kept good. I mean, you can see how healthy they look. They didn't get beaten up. They weren't starved or anything like that. Compare that to hostages that Israelis were keeping, and these were like young kids. Israel has been keeping. These are young kids, 5 years old, 6 years old, 10 years old, and they've been keeping them without charge in Israel, and that is worst kind of terrorism. I mean, the whole world didn't even realize all of this was happening in Israel. They were just taking kids only because these kids were throwing stones. So just throwing stones at a car normally means that they get arrested for a number of years without any trial. They get tortured, beaten up. Um, so it's just really sick what Israel has been doing to all these kids, really, and women and children. It's absolutely sick. So Elon Musk made a trip to Israel today, and a lot of people are saying that Elon Musk has been basically Epsteined by Israel. They got something on him, basically. So the fact is, he's acting really strange going to Israel. He's listening to Netanyahu, saying all of these strange words and stuff. And it looks like somebody somewhere has threatened him or got him in some way, and he's basically become like a pansy for Israelis. And some people say that the feds have got to Elon Musk, and Elon Musk needs to go and make up, because the fact that he's allowing a lots of Palestinian voices in X. He doesn't want to be shown that he's completely pro-Palestinian side. So I guess he had to do something like this to meet Israel and to kind of keep the the kind of Israelis happy and the Westerners happy. So yeah, it's something very, very fishy the way he's gone to, yeah, gone to Israel, really. So yeah, there's more images there. So I think that's it, guys. I don't think there's any more important stories. Oh, Yemen has been doing some good work. Yemen has hijacked another vessel. This is the third vessel that Yemen has hijacked off Israel. And you can imagine the Israeli ships, the insurance must be sky high because Yemen's basically stealing all of these Israeli ships off the coast of Yemen. And Yemen is in a very good geographic spot, right on the Red Sea, which means any Israeli ships going through the Red Sea would be able to would be very, very vulnerable to Yemen. And the United States really can't do anything because they are keeping an eye on the Mediterranean. They're keeping an eye on Iran. They can't keep an eye on Yemen at the same time as well. They are just going to be too stretched, and They would love to attack Yemen, but I don't think they will because this is just going to enrage the Middle East even more. If they start attacking other Muslim countries, all the Muslim countries are just going to unite, and it's just going to escalate. So yeah, things are very, very difficult in the Middle East at the moment. One wrong move can really cause a lot of issues. So we'll see what happens. There's talk about Biden. I saw a report today that Biden might quit, or he might be forced to quit being US president, because all of this stuff that's happening around the world with Ukraine, with Gaza, apparently is causing a lot of health issues to Biden. And Biden is apparently very, very, all this pressure and all this stress is basically killing him. And I don't think he can survive until next election year. So they're already talking about replacing Biden, because you can see Biden, the way he talks, the way he moves. He's just a walking dead person, really. Nothing he says is of any value. Um, so yeah, he's just a useless president, a dead duck. And you can see Blinken, basically is his minder. Blinken's literally telling him what to say and what to do. Blinken's looking at every action that Biden does, everything he says. And yeah, I just don't think Biden will last until the next presidency. He's only got a year left, so he might still be able to last until the elections. But there's talk about him leaving after Christmas. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. So I think that's it, guys. There's all the biggest stories from the world right now. You guys got any questions for me before I put a close to it? So let's go through some of your messages, see if there's any nice and juicy questions. So Polly says all the drugs they're pumping into Biden don't work anymore. Definitely, definitely. There's only so much drugs can do. Hey, CA's back. How you doing, brother? Long time no see. Why do the Americans not from the escorted convoys like they did in World War II in the Red Sea? Um, I think they are just completely stretched, to be honest. I think they are, because at the end of the day, look, the energy prices are very high. To move a whole aircraft carrier through the Red Sea and through the Mediterranean Sea and stuff like that, it costs a lot of money. They've already got 3 battle groups in the Mediterranean Sea. There is an aircraft carrier that went through the Hormuz Strait today as well. Um, I think it's just the longer this takes, the more expensive it is for America, the more money they're wasting. I think it's just the fact that they just don't have the money, to be honest. Um, World War II was different then, but back then America was one of was the premier world empire, the number 1 country in the world. They had loads of money, but yeah, no, things are not the same anymore. I got somebody in Twitter. Do you want to ask me any questions? Do you have anything to say? Sunit, is it Sunta? Hang on. You're welcome to speak if you want. If not, I'll just carry on asking questions. The EU has conducted a poll. 62% of Europeans have some sort of psychological issue. Yeah, I agree with you. No, um, Can't see any other questions. Oh, thanks for the super chat, CA. Appreciate that. Can't see any other questions, guys. I've got one person in Twitter. Do you want to ask me any questions before I close this chat? You're welcome to speak, by the way. Don't be shy. Probably shy. Oh, I've got another question here. China and Thailand are making a canal through the Thailand. Um, that's correct. Yeah, I think they are. I think this is in a discussion phase at the moment. So nothing's obviously concrete. They've been discussing this for years. I think over like 10 years they've been talking about it. It is a big job. It's going to cost a lot of money. So whether it's economically viable, they'll have to see whether it goes ahead or not. But yeah, they've been talking about it for a long time. But we'll see if it kind of if if somebody signs a dotted line. So Polly says, just wondering if this is true. Yellen has failed both times to get China to buy U.S. treasuries in Bali and yes, correct. Yeah, so China is still selling U.S. treasuries and bonds, even up to last month. Their treasury value um, has gone below 800 billion. So they are still selling. Um, yeah, so Yellen has failed both times. China has got no plans to buy U.S. bonds anymore. At the end of the day, it's not value for money anymore. Uh, if you're a country, you know that US bonds, they don't have the same value as they did um, 30, 40 years ago, even like 20 years ago. Especially now with the high interest rates, you're not going to get the same returns. Right, any other questions? So, got one from Camilla. I've asked 4 times, why do you think Milei was elected in Argentina? Well, I spoke to a few Argentinians and they told me that they haven't really voted for him, and a lot of people actually didn't go to vote this year because both the candidates were equally bad. I think Milley's the candidate who was opposite Milley. A lot of Argentinians didn't trust him either. Didn't trust his policies, and um, and I think Argentinians mainly wanted a change as well. So he seemed quite eccentric. Um, but the fact that he's a pro-Israelian and also pro-US just goes to show that maybe there was some sort of foul play. Maybe he got put into power by foul play means. Because a lot of Argentinians I spoke to they're saying that they didn't vote for him. Actually, they didn't even vote. They said that they skipped the voting this year, and so yeah, I'm not sure really. I'm not sure. Maybe there's some foul play. Who knows? I wouldn't be surprised. So I've got a question here from. Sorry, I can't read your name. It's a bit jumbled up. I'll ask the question. What will it take to get China to rebuild Gaza, Russia to set up Gaza naval base? I think that's a long way to go. Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen basically because Israel still controls Gaza because they are the occupier and they still control Gaza and all the resources. And they have America backing them up as well. So In the Mediterranean Sea, you have three aircraft carriers supporting Israel as well. So there is no way that Russia or China can set up a base in Gaza. It will cause a regional war. But however, things are changing in the Middle East, and I think we are heading towards a multipolar world. And with this war that's happening in Gaza, you will see a lot of Middle Eastern countries going towards the Russia and the Chinese camp. They are going to de-dollarize from United States. They're going to start severing links to the United States. And over the years, I think as China gets stronger and as Russia gets stronger, and I think in the future there will be some sort of military alliance between China and Russia, and maybe even an alliance with the SCO countries as well, and maybe even an alliance with the BRICS countries. And I believe that that's the way BRICS is heading, and you can see from all the countries that are in BRICS, they are all mainly around the Middle East and Africa. They are basically covering the important trade routes as well. So I think there might be in the future there might be some sort of military alliance between BRICS countries, SCO countries, and between China and Russia. And eventually, a lot of these American military bases are going to be replaced with Russian and Chinese military bases, maybe in the Middle East as well. And things are slowly changing, guys. I think the US is not going to be the sole superpower anymore. Things are moving to a multipolar world, but it's too soon for Russia and China to take over the Middle East. I think China still, China's main priority is Taiwan. Right now, they don't want to get involved with the Middle East too much. And Russia's obviously busy with Ukraine, so they don't want to get too busily involved in the Middle East either. So once Russia's dealt with Ukraine, once China's dealt with Taiwan, maybe Russia and China can and the Middle Eastern countries can talk together and maybe form some sort of alliance to kind of protect the Middle Eastern countries and protect the oil and gas and things like that. Maybe in the future, but definitely not now. I think China and both Russia have more important things going on at the moment. So I think that's the last question, guys. Thanks for listening. Oh, I got one last question before I go. So Cam says, have you read the big meetup between Northeast Asians, China, Japan, and Rock? This might turn out to be something. They finally see the writing on the restroom walls. Uncle Sam is getting old. Yeah, I saw this meetup. Um, I don't know. I mean, I'm not too sure. I remember when President Xi went to San Francisco on is it called the APEC APEC summit or something? And I saw the South Korean president, and the South Korean president, he was like so happy to meet President Xi. He was like, you should have seen his face. He was like this young kid. He had a big smile in his face. He ran up to President Xi, started like talking to him like, long time no see, brother. How's it going? With a big smile in his face. Biden obviously did the same thing as well. President Xi was like, he was like a proper, celebrity in that summit. They even cleaned up the city for him. So obviously, you can see the South Korean president now has completely changed his tune. A few months ago, he was like being rude to President Xi. There was a talk about because a reporter once asked him, why doesn't he go to China? And he rudely said that, why should I go to China? President Xi needs to come to South Korea first, and he needs to talk to me first. Why should I go to China? So he was just being really like rude and dismissive of President Xi. But funny how few months later, now he's becoming all smiley, ask Kiki and stuff. But I think like I know there's a meetup going on, or there will be a meetup going on, but I don't think much will come out of it. To be honest, I still think Japan and South Korea are still puppets of the United States. They can't really change their policy. Um, they base they basically are slaves to what the US do. US right now is being friendly to China because US has got way too many plates this juggling. So US is obviously busy with Ukraine, busy with Gaza. They don't want to escalate things with China, so they've kind of cooled they've cooled the relationship with China right now. And because they've cooled the relationship with China, you have Japan and South Korea trying to cool things down as well. But if America, say next year, if Trump comes into power and Trump decides to put full sanctions again on China and starts bringing up the rhetoric on China, you will see South Korea and Japan, going in back into line, and they're going to be just as they're going to basically follow American orders. They're only trying to be friendly now because America has kind of cooled down. But once America brings up the ratchet again, all of these, puppet countries like South Korea, like Japan, they're going to do the same thing. Same way with UK as well. You see that when America started kind of cooling relationships with China, UK sent its foreign secretary to China to kind of smooth relationships as well. So basically, all of these puppet countries are just following United States really. So you can't really trust them. Same with Australia as well. Australia's obviously kind of cooled down. They're following the American. Um, you see all of these. If America suddenly started, you know, going crazy towards China again, you will see all these other countries are going to follow suit and do the same thing. Like for example, during the Beijing Olympics, when America boycotted the games, and all the puppet states started boycotting as well. UK boycotted it, South Korea boycotted it, Japan boycotted it. So all of these puppet states will always follow what America does. If America's like says, "All right, boys, um, time to switch on the gas. Let's start, going hard on China again." All these countries are going to do the same thing. They all kind of follow Uncle Sam, and they're all part of the same thing. They're all part of Quad. They're all part of these Chip for Alliance things. So yeah, there's not don't really count. Um, Hang on a second, guys. So don't really count on these meetings to go anywhere. I think this is just kind of a formal thing that they'll probably kind of discuss and say some nice things about each other, but I don't see anything major coming out of it. But anyway, guys, thanks for. Oh, okay. I've got one last question then. This is something I wanted to talk about. From GL. It says, what do you think about KMT and TPP for failing to form a joint platform to confront the DPP in Taiwan? so So yeah, I just think that there's some foul play going on in Taiwan. Really, I mean, look, end of the day, um, Taiwan is still, a friendly country to the West, and Taiwan's still very, very important to United States and the rest of the West. United States will do whatever it can in its power to keep DPP in place because United States, if DPP loses the election and the Kuomintang party comes into power, this is going to be huge, huge bad news for the United States because this means that they could lose Taiwan to China without firing a shot. So I don't think America will allow it. I think there's going to be some foul play. Um, Even if, I mean, the fact that the KMT and TPP they failed to form some sort of platform that just tells you that there's things happening behind the scenes that we don't even know about. And I mean, I like to be optimistic, guys. Trust me, I want a peaceful reunification. I want DPP to go out of power. I want, a friendly country to come into power in Taiwan, and they've they create a roadmap towards peace and roadmap towards reunification. That would be the best thing for China and Taiwan. But end of the day, I know the world doesn't work like that. I mean, you just have to look at, you know, what's happening around the world. You have the Philippines, you have this puppet, basically. All the good work that Duerte did with China, this puppet has come into place, Marcos Jr., and he's destroyed everything that Duerte has built. Same, they tried to, mess about with the elections in Thailand. They've obviously put a US friendly guy in South Korea. They've put US friendly guy in Argentina, and you obviously see, he's very, very anti-Chinese. You got a US friendly guy or Israeli friendly guy, just came into power in the Netherlands. So all of this stuff is not by accident. It's done, it's done by the US, and this is why the US loves democracies, because the whole point of democracy is, you know, if the US doesn't like a government in a particular democratically elected government, and if the US doesn't like them, they will find a way to get rid of them in the next election. And it's so easy to get rid of people in a democratic manner, because all you need um, to stand as a prime minister or president is basically you need a lot of money backing, and basically you basically need friends in the right places. So the number one thing is you need money, right? Because you've seen Trump when he became the US president. He must have spent billions on his campaign. So you need a lot of money, because you need a lot of money for your marketing, your ads. You obviously need to start giving out leaflets to people. You need to pay a lot of people to kind of do a lot of your work. You're selling, you're basically getting people to go out there and um, sell sell your votes, basically, so people vote for you. And you need a lot of money for that. And if you don't have the money, if you don't have the backing, it's very, very difficult to become a president or prime minister. And this is what the US does, basically. They give you unlimited funds. So if they want to like topple a government, so one guy comes along and the US says, okay, look, we will give you all the money you want. We will give you all the backing you need. We will basically give you whatever you want. And once you become president or prime minister, this is, let's shake a deal. And this is what you're going to do. You're going to be anti-Chinese. You're going to get rid of this. You're going to get rid of that. So let's shake a deal now. And for the US, this is like easy money, because at the end of the day, if you think about it, if they pay somebody a couple of million to become president, they pay for their. Hang on again. Hang on a second, guys. I lost my screen again. Yeah, so if they pay somebody a couple of million, or maybe even like 10 million or 20 million, however much it costs, it's still going to be a bargain, right? Because the long term, they basically cancel a lot of the Chinese deals that the previous government had, and they start basically selling off land and resources, oil, and started bringing in American companies instead. So even if they pay like however much it is, 10, 20, 30 million, it's still a bargain to the United States to get somebody friendly in place and put somebody friendly in place. And this is why they love democracies. This is why they love to kind of export democracies around the world, because for the United States, it's so easy to put a puppet in place if they don't like someone. And you can see what's happened in Pakistan as well. Obviously Imran Khan. was a very, very anti-US, pro-China guy. But they got rid of him. They got rid of him, and they put a puppet in place because this is what they do. And this is why I don't really have much hope with what's happening in Taiwan. I think that they will kind of play dirty, and they will keep the DPP in place somehow. I mean, you can see in Ukraine, like Ukraine, they they basically sell Ukraine like a democracy. They said, "Oh, this is a democracy. We're fighting tyranny and evil in Russia. Putin's a dictator, but you know, um, you know, basically Ukraine is a shining democracy." But what has Zelensky done? Zelensky has basically cancelled the elections for next year. He was supposed to have Ukrainian elections next year, but he's cancelled it. So you can't really call that a democracy, can you? I mean, democracy is only good um, for the US if it serves its interest. Otherwise, you know, the hell with democracy. Basically. So yeah, I don't really have much hope for Taiwan next year, but obviously it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But yeah, I mean, obviously I want a peaceful reunification, but I just do not think the US will allow it. I just do not think it's that easy. I think this is one of the things that China is kind of fairly um, behind on, because China has got a very non-interference policy. They do not interfere themselves in other countries' internal affairs or elections or anything like that. But US is a very, very skilled, merchant for that. They have been doing it for years. US has been, you know, getting involved in color revolutions and elections and getting people out of power into power. All, they've been doing it for years, 50, 60, 70 years. Who knows how long they've been doing it? They are experts at it. So this is one thing China is actually not good at, because China is something China doesn't do. But unfortunately, it has burnt China, because China doesn't do it. It has burnt China a lot, and a lot of stories that people don't realize is, obviously things. A lot of China, invests a lot in a lot of countries, and then suddenly these pro-US governments come into place, and all the investments that China's put suddenly just goes to waste. Example is like example is that country next to Indonesia. What's it called? Guinea. I think it's called Guinea or something. And Guinea had a really good relationship with China, and obviously China spent a lot of money into their infrastructure and stuff like that. And then suddenly the US comes along, gives them a little money, puts some US military bases in place, kicks out the Chinese investments, and that's it. Like, you got these pro-US guys in there, and same things happen to Africa as well. There's a couple of countries in Africa where China's put a lot of money and investments into the mining projects and stuff. Then suddenly a government comes in who are very pro-US, and they kick out all the Chinese investments, and they replace them with the pro-US ones. So this is the problem, really. I think when China invests a lot of money into countries, and suddenly these countries, get these pro-US guys. I'm talking about Marcos Jr. Then they start kicking out all the Chinese investments and stuff. And it happens in the UK as well. Happened in UK. Like, China has invested a lot of money in UK. Huawei came in and spent a lot of money in UK, and they built kind of lots of kind of shops, Huawei shops all over UK, and they were going to build a research center in Cambridge, and they spent like $1 billion buying the land in Cambridge to build these kind of research center, and they got planning permission to build it and everything. And then suddenly Boris Johnson comes into power, and he kicks out every single Chinese investment, like kicks out Huawei, kicks out Chinese investments from the the nuclear power sites, kicks out Chinese investments from some chip sites. I think they were Newport chips, I believe, the Newport fabs, and they kicked out Chinese investments from there. So you see, it's very, very risky for China to suddenly start investing in countries. And then when the pro-US guy comes along and he starts kicking out Chinese investments, it's just a waste of money, waste of time and effort. So maybe China should really kind of look into interfering with other countries' policies, because at the end of the day, the US does this really well, and the US has been doing it for years. They're absolute experts at it, and they're experts at causing color revolutions, and Maidan in Ukraine, causing trouble all over the world. They're absolute experts at it. But but then again, China doesn't need to do that. I mean, the fact that they are not getting involved is still a big plus for them, because the countries that still trade with China know what China is about, and they know it's all about infrastructure. They're not about military bases. They don't have, it's not about well, the US, they're very, very shady. When you start shaking hands with the devil, when you start shaking hands with the US, you know what you're gonna get. They're not after your best interests. They want to either use you as a proxy, or they want to use your natural resources. So anyway, guys, I'm gonna go now. Thanks for listening. Hope it's been interesting for you guys. Um, but yeah, I'm kind of tired talking now. Um, so hopefully you guys have a good weekend. Oh no, it's not weekend yet. What am I talking about? I'm losing track of the time. I thought it was Thursday or Friday. Oh God, I think it's too late. I think my brain has stopped working. Anyway, take care, guys. Thanks for coming in and listening, and hope to see you soon. And before I go, I just want to see if does anyone in Twitter want to speak, by the way? No? All right. I thought I'd check. Taiwan says AJ is high. No, no, I'm definitely not high, guys. I'm definitely not high. Those of you who know me very well, I don't do drugs. I don't even smoke. I don't drink anything like that. I think I like to keep my mind fresh with all the geopolitics news that's happening around the world. Yeah, there's a lot of information that my brain needs. I'm always learning every single day, so I don't want to I don't want to put any substances in me that's going to affect my brain. So I need my brain absolutely fresh and active, and yeah, and I try and get as much sleep as I can as well. So yeah, keeping your brain active and fresh, sharp is very, very important, especially when you do geopolitics, because obviously geopolitics is a very, very important subject. You need to have an open mind. You need to really understand how geopolitics works, and try and link why this happens, why that happens, and try and you know just kind of try and be open-minded. And yeah, not many, this is why not many people understand geopolitics, and this is why a lot of the European leaders are very narrow-minded, and you can even say they're very stupid in the way they kind of deal with geopolitics, especially all the Blinken and Baerbock and Ursula. They really don't have a grasp on how the world works, and I think it's very, very the current crop of people that are running the world they are absolutely disappointing. The way they just have no grasp of geopolitics and how things work and stuff like that. And this is why we're having so many problems around the world. It's just these people who are unelected got given a little bit of power, and then now you see them abusing that power, and 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 this is where we are today. And it's just a bunch of idiots running the country, running the world, and causing all sorts of issues. But anyway, guys, I'm talking too much. I'm talking too much. So thanks for listening, and hope to see you soon. Take care, guys. Bye.